and welcome back to the only daily lacrosse talk show on the planet. This is Daily Dive. I'm your host, Michael Carvelis. That is Eddy Tabone of First Line Lacrosse. How are you today, sir?
Great. How are you?
You sound tired, man.
You know, it's been one of those weeks.
Living the dream, but well, it's playoff week, so you got to be busy, right?
Yeah. We had the 8 a.m. And then 7:30 p.m. trains from Rochester to Albany and back. So still recovering from that, and then get to do it all again on Sunday.
Well, that's not a bad thing to have, I'm sure. Not a bad career to have. So I got to ask you, of course, for those that don't know, Eddy is the owner or co-owner of sorts of First Line Lacrosse. Tell us how you/others came up with this idea in the first place.
Yeah, so I guess first off, we gotta put the shout out to Rob Weber, who I do this with. He was the one who kind of got the ball rolling. He was in a sport management class at St. John Fisher, just meeting with. They had like a Nighthawks person come and talk about like the business side of sports and all that, and then there was like a side conversation between that guy and the professor about like, hey, we might be thinking about doing analytics. This was 2018, so it was the first organization. So we kind of went in. It was pretty much like, if you guys want to start figuring this out, you guys can use it for like college credit or, research or anything like that. So we just went on board with that. And then post-pandemic, we kind of developed it, spread ourselves over a couple more teams, and then have expanded now to 6 and turned it into a business.
Are you allowed to tell us what 6 teams that you are a part of right now?
Very much. So Rochester, Philadelphia, Halifax, Georgia, New York / Ottawa, and then San Diego.
Yeah, rest in peace to New York. I feel the pain there. That's a good list there. I like that. I know you guys extended to Georgia Swarm. I mean, being a guy in Georgia who's been to one Swarm game in my only lacrosse life, that's pretty cool to hear. So good stuff there. Tell us about what you guys do for the NLL specific league. I know you talk about the analytics part, but what do you guys provide teams?
It all starts as a baseline of, they were looking for some more details to the existing things that they've known their whole lives of playing the sport. And when we started, it was just pretty much like, we just want to know about shots. So it was, where it happened, where the ball went, those kind of things. And then different information like who had the pass, how did the shooter get to the place where they were going to shoot, rebound information, all those kind of things. And then since then, we've developed things like some more detailed categories on face-offs and loose balls and all the things like that.
Now, I heard you say face-offs, and that perked my ears because I also read on the Twitter bio, it says, well, X bio, whatever you want to call it, it says face-offs matter. So do explain yourself, sir, because I am a fan.
Any complaints you have, send to @TyMareLax on Twitter. Essentially, the conversation around face-offs mattering has always been about direct correlation to winning. And essentially, through 6 years of this, you're not really looking to use the face-off to win. First of all, you're using it to get an optimal amount of possessions, which are going to get you an optimal amount of shots, which are going to get you an optimal amount of goals. And then on the other side, limit the amount of shots you're giving up and the chances for goals you're giving up. And that's what gets you to your goal differential, which gets to your win. So it's, that's the kind of analytical thing where it's like, it's our jobs to dig in and get the further detail to figure out, the whys and the hows of lacrosse.
Well, I love that because I never thought about it like that. Because it's not direct correlation to winning. It's a little stepping process. I like that. Good job on that. That was a bonus question for the folks, by the way. He didn't even prepare for that one. So good job.
I'm always prepared for that one.
Good. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I know people are going to say, well, I thought, lax metrics was a thing, like Cooper Perkins, which he does a good job of that. But so the question would be, how do you guys differ from what Latch Metrics and Cooper Perkins have done?
Cooper's is a separate project. It's I haven't talked to him directly about this, but from what I've kind of gathered, it's something that developed out of his preparations for, doing his broadcast and all those things. And it's just another thing where it's league wide. It's a storytelling opportunity as from a journalist perspective. And it's all going towards the same goal. The difference, I guess, would be that we're working directly with the individual teams more on like a game planning perspective and, game analysis from the previous week, those kind of things where, we're doing the less interesting things, and Cooper is the one providing the information for the fights about who's better than who and those kind of things. For the conversations that build up around the league, he does a great job too. Don't get me wrong. It's more like it's the same. It's different. It's a little bit of everything with that. But yeah,
I guess
we're more
if you're a
focused on
nerd,
the
you
team
know
side.
it. If you're not a nerd, you don't know.
Sure.
Is that what it feels like?
Yeah, it depends. Depends on the day.
Casual fan might not get it.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's just, different ways to talk about what happened during a game. So from that perspective, everyone's kind of going towards the same thing. They're trying to get as much knowledge about the sport as possible to get a better, appreciation and understanding of, what they're seeing.
It's been 36. I'm kidding. Okay, so that's good stuff from you. So I got to ask you, I don't want to say there's a data thing for you out there, but from your perspective from your side of first line, who do you think is the best player in lacrosse, and how do you even judge that for yourself? Like, is it preference, or how do you feel?
Man, I mean, completely contrary to that. I've always actually felt like those kind of conversations, like especially with awards, are allowed to have a little bit of subjectivity. Our biggest thing for offense, and this actually does kind of line up with what Cooper does with his first order assists, where it's you don't not even look at just the points, but also the potential for points. So we call them shot assists. He calls them first order assists. Essentially, it's like a basketball assist where it's like a catch and shoot kind of opportunity. So, all shot attempts, all of the shot assists, adding up to shot contributions, which is how they're usually phrased in hockey. We kind of just took from that. Always at the top of the leaderboard, you're going to see your Danes, you're going to see your Joshes, you're going to see your Jeffs. For the most part, for the last 3 years, they've sort of risen to the cream of the crop. In terms of like who the best is right now, it really does, kind of differ. We see, stretches of like 4 to 5 games where it's someone else's turn to be, on the heater. Same thing with the teams too. I think we saw that this year too with, Albany getting off to the hot start, and then New York having that good January, and then Vancouver having their hot streak, and then Sask getting in there with theirs. And then, you got on the same side, you got the Torontos, and then you got Buffalo's final stretch, things like, people like that. So it's all cyclical. If you want to turn this into an MVP conversation, I think that there's really no alternative to one of the two Bandits getting it, or I would say giving it to both of them. It's one of the rare opportunities where you have a co-MVP conversation, and I think you really don't want to take one vote away from each other. And I know that this isn't how the voting works, but like I feel like this would be the year to kind of sketch it where it's those two putting up those point totals on that team, kind of getting them through their defense getting healthy, and then the Matt Vincent injury and him coming back. They were consistently the reason that they got back to a home playoff game in the first round and, into this Final Four.
You know what? I feel like I've done the people a disservice here because, and you brought it up to me, which I didn't realize it. There is an opportunity. Well, I don't know if it would be possible, but if there was a chance for a co-MVP, it would be this year. And I'm shocked that my brain has not figured that out doing this Monday through Friday lacrosse talk show the entire year. And that's a great point because you can argue for Connor Fields, maybe. You can argue for Jeff T, possibly, if you like the playoffs aren't your thing. Let me shut up. But like Dane and Josh, that could be a real conversation I think we might actually have to have. I like that. That's because you are right about them bringing it through. Do you Do you like it when like the forwards like Dane and Josh are playing so much defense? Because they had a lot of college turnovers, dude. That was a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, every coach in the league is going to want a guy that they can take off the floor as little as possible. Just you've seen the way the challenge been used from that 1 year that they were tracking time on floor. You'd get like 30 minutes a game. Those guys that are playing half the game are just so invaluable that if you can get a guy out there on defense and then be the one to push the transition, it just takes one more step of 5 to 10 seconds where you have to shift everyone. If there's someone already out there kind of getting a feel for who's coming on the floor and those kind of things, you can do a little bit more on the matchup side and just even a composure perspective too. Like you take Dane, who has been your best facilitator for 3 years, and he's the one bringing the ball up after a defensive stop. Like of all the players on the Bandits, I would trust him the most to get an understanding of what's about to happen the next 30 seconds, and then get back on defense and limit transition back the other way, or get to the bench and then be back out there for the next O shift.
How rare? I don't know if the numbers even support this, but how rare is it for a guy like Dane and Josh to have the heavy volume on offense and play defense? Because you mentioned Chow and Rogers, and it's like he doesn't even have the volume on offense those guys have. Have you ever seen this before?
A little bit, not as prevalent. I feel like the last 2 or 3 years, out of COVID, you've seen more of a shift towards guys playing a little bit more on defense as a way to limit transition, while also knowing that these guys, are, the best athletes at their sport, especially Dane coming up playing transition role when he started in the league. But I feel like from my perspective, it's more of like a coaching preference thing. There's some teams that definitely don't do it. There's other teams that do have a lot of guys playing both ways, even if it's like, Rochester, when they leave Matt Gilray out for a shift to set some screens. And then if the possession's still going on, get back off or, just finish out the pick and roll kind of play. So I think it might be the next wave of guys. You hear it in every sport, though. You want the biggest guy, you want the fastest guy, you want the strongest guy. You want that to be all three of the same person.
Right.
And it's just more, as sports evolve, you're going to get bigger, stronger, faster athletes, and they're going to be able to do more until everyone's doing the same thing, and you can get back to that specialist. It's more of a cyclical thing than anything else.
So now I got to ask you one more thing is, as a person who looks at it from the analytical perspective, I'm sure you have a lot of faith in your craft. Who's the best of the 4 teams remaining? I mean, you can say Buffalo. I know you're in Buffalo, but you might get a little flack for that one. Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
We're Connor fans here.
Well, of course. I think what we saw last weekend was sort of what you see in the NBA once you get to like that conference final stage, where once the stakes get higher, the game slows down. And I mean, you just look at the scores themselves. Some penalties here and there, depending on the game, kind of took it out of the 5-on-5 play, but definitely lower event, definitely more of an understanding of, we're playing defense first today. We're making sure we're giving our goalie the best chance to see the shots he wants. I could honestly see, I hate to do this, but I could see all 4 teams putting together that case of that game script again, and it just coming down to who's going to be making their shots on the given game that they're playing. Toronto's at the top of the league. They've just played suffocating defense, but at the same time, you've got your 2 of their 3 losses to the team that they're playing. And the history with that too, but also we haven't seen Tom Schreiber and Mark Matthews in the playoffs against the Bandits yet. We haven't seen what's going to happen on their penalty kill. Last year they were packing it in. Paul Dawson's probably going to step right in and do that, but are they going to, keep it as contained the whole time? And then on the other side, obviously from a business perspective, we're favoring towards the Seals, but you just never know with Dougie coming off, his Man Cup season and how he played yesterday or Sunday. It was a fantastic performance for him. It could really go any of the four ways at this point. I think this is the best opportunity we've had to see both series go to the third game. And I kind of hope it does because, when elimination games are incredibly exciting and, when both sides are playing for that, it's hard to be beat.
Love it. Is there anything you want to plug here before we leave? I know we obviously First Line Lacrosse, but tell us more about that, how we access it.
Yeah, so it's actually something we're going to be working on this summer, try to get a little bit more public information on firstlinesportsanalytics.com. We have a couple of dashboards that I put together during the pandemic of the old Point Street games and sort of like a reporting graphs and tables, all that fun stuff. On there, it goes from 2005 to 2019.
Wow.
There's also I do some writing for Expected Buffalo, which is a Sabres-based site, but I get my chances to write about the Bandiston Nighthawks being local. If you're into the hockey scene, if you're into the analytics scene there, Chad, Anthony, and I do some pretty extensive breakdowns, definitely ahead of the lacrosse landscape of analytics at this point. Obviously working to change that, but that's the big thing we do. And then other than that, yeah, you see my lacrosse Twitter account on the screen. That's where I get off my takes that 3 people care about on a given day, and it's all I need. It's all I need to keep the serotonin going.
Jeez, 3 people. Give yourself some credit, man.
Yeah, it depends on the day.
I'll be number 4 if that helps you.
All right.
All right, cool. We'll exchange numbers after the show, I'm sure. All right, guys. Eddy Tabone, thank you so much for everything, man. And we hope this relationship grows in the future. Have a great rest of your day, sir.
Yeah, you too.